Lisa Loud from Secret Network, and Kenny Ezeji Okoye from Millicent. I'm thrilled to have these two on. Let me give some good intros here so everyone knows who these folks are. So I go back a couple years with Lisa. Lisa began her career as a development manager at Apple, later serving as PayPal's head of U.S. digital acquisition before moving on to the crypto exchange BitMEX as head of marketing in 2017. She also served as chief operating officer of the Switzerland-based crypto exchange Shapeshift, which is pretty well known. After which she founded a digital asset management company, Fluidify, in September 2020. Which was her second entrepreneurial venture after launching a software services company in 2001. She's also one of the most influential women in the crypto industry, so we're honored to have her today. Kenny and I met last year through the webs, and he's a two-time crypto founder. He's a two-time founder of crypto since 2017. Bank of England Digital Currency Forum member and expert at the Digital Euro Association. So we're honored to chat today about bridging traditional and non-traditional crypto markets. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, man. Good to be here. Good to see you.
Great. So first, kick things off. Visa had a really big announcement that I wanted us to crack into. That was just sort of announced yesterday, which is essentially they're introducing a tokenized asset platform, which will help bank issue fiat-backed tokens. That's sort of like the I don't know if this is the iPhone moment or if this is just more marketing, but it's good to see that Visa is throwing its hat in the ring.
Yeah, we'll take it. Whatever it is, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your particular opinions about where the industry is and where it's headed, and why you think why you're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I want to hear what Kenny has to say about it. Let me just preface it by saying, when PayPal decided to be part of the Libra, I don't know if anybody remembers Libra, but it's kind of faded into insignificance now. But when they decided to be part of Facebook's Libra token, I was thinking that was our moment, right? That was our golden iPhone moment. PayPal was finally, and the reason I left PayPal is I couldn't talk them into doing anything crypto related. That's why I went to BitMEX. And so when PayPal did that, I thought, okay, this is it. Well, we're a few years later now, and PayPal has done some big moves in the space. They introduced their own stablecoin. So to me, this is more, and the ETF was a big marker for a lot of traditional finance people. So to me, this step from Visa is just adding fuel to the fire. The ability, I mean, since the beginning, when I joined BitMEX in 2017, I wanted there to be an adoption from institutions of cryptocurrency. And like, it's 2024 and we're not there yet. So it's taking a lot longer than I expected, a lot longer. But to me, this is a signature moment, because this is not just ETFs for individuals investing. This is for banks. This is for like bringing the traditional finance institutions into our ecosystem. So pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, I think don't undersell Libra's importance as the iPhone moment. I think that, it got crushed by regulators, but that's what made all the institutions sit up and pay attention. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Visa was a member of the original Libra consortium way back in 2019. So people have had their toes in the water for a really long time, and it feels like they're starting to get in, maybe up to their knees, but hopefully we're, chest deep in 12 months time. I think Visa's announcement's interesting. They announced it's still in sandbox phase, but they announced a live partner that's planning to go live in 2025. I think the marketing spin there is that it makes other institutions go dive into that sandbox and start to explore how they can get involved as well. Yeah, behind the scenes here in the UK, Visa, MasterCard, both working in the UK Regulated Liabilities Network, which is a private blockchain set up to tokenize all different kinds of fiat, be that central bank money, commercial bank money. Stable coins can potentially live on it. It's not live yet. It's going into the experimentation phase, but they're looking at it as a kind of network of networks. And we're going to get our hands on it in a couple of months and try and show that public networks can be a part of that as well. And you can have that singleness of money across public, private, TradFi, DeFi, whatever it is. I think the terms TradFi and DeFi will eventually go away and it'll just be finance. Nobody really cares what servers Netflix is running on. You just want to watch your shows, and finance will get there. But we need to tell a story along the way.
So
I love
what's
the UK, and I love the. Sorry, Nathan. I just want to say I love the way that the UK is pushing regulations forward, and I've been working with Commissioner Hester Peirce of the SEC.
she's fantastic.
She is so wonderful.
She has been fantastic for years.
2 face-to-face meetings with her, and she asked me to bring a group. Sorry, there's a fire truck out there. She asked me to bring a group together to make a draft new regulations in case the moment ever comes. So I've been really formed a group of people, and we're calling ourselves Hester's Army. So so anyway, my point is, when I last met with her in Austin, she was telling us about a sandbox that they had they didn't launch it, right? Because you can't launch things, but they had written the proposal and sent it over to the UK to do a sandbox with the UK for crypto companies that want to start working and don't want to be worried that they're going to go to jail. So I just feel like you're so lucky to be in the UK. It's just so much more friendly than it is here in the US.
Yeah, the digital security sandbox just went live over here as well, which is pretty interesting.
So just to comment on the Libra thing and just panning out a little bit, it's just a triple entry accounting ledger. It's like, how did we get to this point? It's like, can we just have your ledger and my ledger and a third ledger, and that's it? Can we just do that? And everyone forgets, everyone's pumping bags and ideas and stuff, but the idea is real simple, and it's just, can we have these these clay tablets between us that just are immutable, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that the word permissionless scares a lot of people in traditional finance.
And trustless. Trustless
Yeah.
scares people.
And especially, I mean, a lot of financial institutions, trust is their business, right? That's what they're selling you, is trust them with your money, trust them to do the settlement. There is a lot of trust in between the different banks, and so there is an avenue for disintermediation. But I think, unlike Blockbuster, for anyone who remembers them, who refused, had the opportunity to buy Netflix but pushed back against it and didn't innovate themselves because they were the incumbent, they went out of business. And I think that the traditional financial institutions are realizing they need to do their own Netflix play, or they're going to go the way of Blockbuster. And that's why we're seeing this adoption, embracement speed up.
It's a great analogy. Great analogy. And Nathan, I really like how you simplified it, brought it down to brass tacks, right? I feel like a lot of times when we talk about blockchain, we use all these big words and technical language, and people are just like, I don't want any part of that. But it's, it's simple. It's actually really simple. So let's talk about it as though it's simple. I mean, I always use boring old analogies. I don't have good ones like Kenny, but I use the one of TCP/IP, and we talk about websites. We talk about web pages. We don't talk about the technology that built them, or whether they're using CSS, or even whether they're on WordPress or Joomla or whatever. We just talk about the website. We talk about, okay, I need to get a website up and running. We talk about the internet, we talk about Google and how we can interact online, talk about Web3, but we're so consumed with these ideas that we have to be smarter. We have to show how smart we are by talking about all the technicalities. And I just really love how you brought it down to triple entry accounting. It's like that's what we need more of. We need more layman's language.
And it's also not political, right? It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with my opinions, right? It's just like, can we in Mesopotamia have 3 clay tablets between us to know how much money you have on your books so that people can leverage to the hilt if they want, or if they can just sit and just do nothing with it. But at least we'll have some agreement between us, which is why it's just so strange that it just spun out into all these other things. And
But
going back to
everything we do as humans becomes political.
which is, this should be something that everyone wants if you want to have accountability and just transparency. Like, it's bizarre. Maybe you guys want to talk about Kenny. Millicent is so. Lisa, my background with Kenny is I was introduced to him through our connections in the IBC community, which is an interoperability protocol in Web3. And Kenny, at the time, Millicent had just sort of got out of the UK financial sandbox. Maybe you can talk about what you're building with real world assets and give us sort of the high level pitch.
Yeah. So what we're building now is a public Ethereum rollup for on-chain finance with a focus on real world assets and compliance. And I think that identity is a big piece that hasn't really been solved in Web3 or in traditional finance. Identity remains very siloed. One fund manager described to me investing in every different asset is like taking my driver's license test over again whenever I want to rent a car. And it's kind of expensive, it's ineffective. That's a big problem to solve. It wastes a lot of money for the banks. And for Web3 or blockchain, the real world asset space is making a lot of noise. And we've seen tokenized treasury bills go from less than 100 million a couple of years ago to about 2 billion now. But if you look a bit deeper at the numbers, I think 90% of those assets are held by about 100 wallets. And there are only about 6,000 wallets that hold those $2 billion. So they're not quite as accessible as we might like to think, or they're not being adopted as much as we might like to think. And I think that one of the big pieces that will bring that accessibility is the identity piece.
And crack that up a bit, like identity. Give me the pitch here.
Yeah. Right now, we trust third parties with all of our data. It simplifies things for us. Log in with Google, log in with Facebook. You're one data breach away from it being shared. They can do whatever they want with your data, but also Google has one view of Nathan and Facebook has another, your bank has a third, and your credit card has a fourth. And on chain, if you want to buy directly from Circle, you need to KYC with Circle. If you want to buy BlackRock's Biddle Fund, you have to KYC directly with BlackRock, etc. And we need to go to a more user-centric model where you own your identity and you are able to prove, probably ZK proofs is the way that I think this is going to go, but you can just selectively prove what needs to be proven and is true to the person that you need to show it to at the time. To go with another analogy, Lisa, it's like right now, if you go to the corner store and you want to buy a bottle of wine or a case of beers, you have to show someone your driver's license that has your name, date of birth, address, eye color. That's asking for identity fraud. All that they really need to know is a yes or no answer. Are you over 18 or are you over 21? And a ZK proof is the perfect way to do that. So I think we can build up a web of trust and start to increase the interoperability, not of between networks like IBC, but just between assets and between protocols, so that we can start to share information, assets in a better way.
Now, for those people who don't know, a ZK proof is to prove zero knowledge proof, which means that you have no knowledge about what was shared. You just know that it was shared.
Yeah, slipped into using blockchain speak again.
No,
right after
yeah,
Lisa said it.
No, you could have proof. You could have proof without the info. So you have proof without the info. Specifically, though, like those are pretty broad strokes. Can you give us some alpha? Like, how is this going to work in Millicent? Like, how do you propose this happening?
So we've got a kind of tiered approach to compliance on Millicent. If you're touching permissionless assets, but not beneath a certain volume, you don't need any kind of identity verification. If you want to transact in higher volumes or deploy a smart contract to the network, you need some kind of light touch KYC or light touch proof of identity. Something like a Coinbase on-chain attestation is perfect. If you've previously KYC'd with Coinbase, you can mint a proof of KYC and a proof of jurisdiction on-chain. And that's better for geofencing or restricting certain jurisdictions from touching certain assets or protocols than something like IP address blocking that's pretty easy to game with a VPN. And then we're integrating with a third-party provider who's done a lot of work in the space with regulated institutions. They've done some work with the Bank of England as well. And they do decentralized identity and verifiable credentials. Decentralized identity essentially means user-owned identity. The pieces are distributed, so if there's a data breach, nobody can get all of your ID. And verifiable credentials is, like I said, a way of proving something that can be attested to. So you can prove what needs to be proven. And so on Millicent, whether you're a DEX, a lending protocol, the derivatives exchange, etc., you can find out the information that you need to know about a given user, to give them access or give them a certain amount of permission within the application. And if you're an asset issuer, you can have end-to-end assurances that your asset isn't in the wrong hands without having to whitelist each individual wallet that touches your asset one by one, or having a kind of restricted pool. And so we think that'll unlock a lot of demand and unlock a whole bunch of new use cases where you can kind of compose and hypothecate these assets on chain.
Fantastic. Lisa, the Secret has its own particular response to this. Maybe you could shed some light on it.
Sure. I'm frozen in my own display, but I don't know if you guys can see.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, good. All right. Well, that's embarrassing then. All the things I did while I thought it was off camera. Just kidding. Okay, I have terrible, terrible news for you. We are all walking into a future where all the data that we think is private, all the things that we think we have locked down, like our bank accounts, everything about us is about to be exposed, because the world is moving to Web3. And the difference between, and the world is moving to AI, and the difference between Web 2 and AI, which is terrible in the first place, but it at least is somewhat contained, and Web 3 AI, which means decentralized AI, is that not only will AI now know everything about you, but it will also be accessible from anywhere for everyone. So this is the big problem in blockchain. The big reason I believe that institutions have not adopted blockchain up till now is that, yeah, we talk about decentralization, how great it is, decentralization of power, disintermediation, breaking up these power centers and third parties that have all of our data. But the alternative is that we distribute everything, and blockchains are in the clear. That is part of their beauty, right? The transparency of transactions on chain. And in the original Bitcoin white paper, it's somewhere around page 32 or 36, Satoshi actually writes, this will be private. It will be fully private because no one will know your address. It's kind of funny looking back, because you add like intelligence agencies to that, you add AI to that, you add quantum to that, and now you have zero privacy. Everything you ever did that's on chain is viewable. For instance, I do have some good examples here. I recently went to Token 2049 in Singapore, and they have this app called Grab that you use instead of Uber. Well, with the financial systems, I mean, this is a great case study for why we need blockchain. I tried to use my Visa card. It did not work. I don't know why. I tried to use PayPal. It didn't work. I tried to use Pay Now, but you had to have a Singapore bank account to use Pay Now. I tried every single card I had in my wallet. I could not get anything to work. And finally, at the bottom, there was this thing that said, pay with ETH. I'm like, I can do that. I know how to do that. So I chose that because I was already in the car. I'm driving from the airport to my hotel in the back of a car, and I'm frantically trying to figure out how I'm going to pay this guy when I get there, and avoid an awkward moment. And the only thing I could make work was pay with ETH. So I had to connect my Trust wallet with the Grab app, and I had to send them ETH and refill my tank, so to speak, so that I could pay for this ride. Now that's okay, but now the Grab app knows my ETH address, right? Okay, it's not a big deal. I didn't have much in there. I won't use that wallet too much, but let's say that was my only wallet and I had done some big transactions, or I had used it for something that was kind of sensitive, or I had some NFTs. Maybe I have some NFTs in there that show where I've been, POAPs or whatever. Or even the Grab app now knows where I'm going, where I've been, where I started, where I ended, how much money is in that wallet. Let's say some employee at Grab decides, oh, this person has a lot of money. What if I had $1 million in there? And they're like, I know where they just went. I'm just going to go, get that wallet. It's scary to think that everything is transparent on chain. And so the reason I joined Secret Network, you talk about ZK, zero knowledge proofs, and that is one very important part of hiding our data. But there's more to it than that. There's a lot of sensitive data that could be put on chain, but health data, for example, therapy data, journaling, whatever, or institutional stuff, customer sensitive data, that gets put on chain, and suddenly you don't have any GDPR compliance. You suddenly are exposing all of this sensitive data to the world because there's no encryption on chain. How have people solved this in the past? Well, they've taken the data off chain, and so they do stuff on chain, and then they have this little certificate that says you can access our centralized third-party database here and get the answer out of there, and we won't put it on chain. But what is the point of having blockchain if you're not going to use blockchain, right? So now you have all the vulnerabilities of a centralized database governed by a third party. So what is the real solution? The real solution is to encrypt data on chain. And Secret Network started in 2020. We launched to mainnet in 2020. I won't talk too much about the technology. It's not ZK. It's called TEE, Secure Enclave. But basically it allows us to have data on chain and encrypted. And that's like a huge step forward. Now everybody's talking about this. Like I hear the CEO of Ripple, CTO of Ripple, talking about how we all need secure enclaves on chain. I hear a lot of discussions about TEs. I see a lot of confidential computing conversations. So finally, I think the world is waking up. This terrible news is sinking in that we are not protected in this new Web3 world, and we need to do something about it. I sort of feel like we're living the matrix, where we're all in this happy la la land where our data is protected. No one's going to steal our identity, and yet we're just walking into this future where that is inevitable. If we continue to use straight ETH for applications that are institutional or mass applications, we're opening the door to complete loss of privacy and confidentiality. So the technology that Secret has It's not consumer facing. We've made technology that blockchain builders can use to build confidential applications. So it's like a stepping stone. It makes it possible for the banks to, like if the banks were to realize that, maybe I will definitely try to talk to Visa about this, but if they want to issue a stablecoin, they can either use a private blockchain, right, where they control the whole thing, so it's not an exposure, or they could use something like FHE or secret network, which is TE, to encrypt the data on chain, so that all of those transactions, all of that customer data, can live on chain. All of the stablecoin transactions can live on chain, but not be exposed to the world. So I hope I kept it layman enough without. It's really hard for me too. I'm a developer and I like to talk about the technology, so I find myself slipping into it, but call me on it, please, if I do.
Well, a trusted execution environment is popularized by the Intel SGX, which is basically a hardware enclave that provably provably proves to other people that a transaction has been shielded privately inside of a hardware solution.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and okay, I can't not say this then. So all of our validators on the secret blockchain are secured by an SGX chip. So every single validator on Secret Network is validated by a machine, a server that has an Intel SGX with a secure enclave built in.
So if I would throw it back to you, Lisa. Do you think people actually want to pay for privacy or actually use it? Like, or is this just like a meme coin that like we have an idea that privacy is somehow useful?
People are realizing it. I would say in 2020, not so much. It was like, hey, look over here. We need to worry about privacy. But today, people are talking about it. People are realizing it. There's a lot more awareness that, and I don't think I disagree a little bit with the way you phrased it, because you said, "Do people want to pay for privacy?" I don't think that's the question. I think the question is, do institutions need to pay for privacy? And the answer is yes.
Interesting point. In regards to Libra, when we talked earlier about it, I think the main reason it was shut down was because the Facebook having all this data that you're talking about, right? The identity data, their history, their purchasing, they would have more data on credit worthiness than the banks would have, because the banks don't have all the Facebook data.
Yeah, exactly. It was too much power.
Yeah.
So perfect example. Thank you, Nathan.
Network, by the way.
What?
Yeah, first came on Secret Network in late 2020. I'm a big fan.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I thought it was funny when TEE had a real glow up moment earlier this year. It seemed that everybody was talking about it.
Yes.
And
yeah,
exactly. It's definitely early to the party.
So do you think institutions are going to actually be forced to do it if they haven't in the past? Like with, 23andMe, like all the social security numbers, like in what instance have institutions been forced to use privacy preserving technology?
Well, are institutions forced to use blockchain though in the first place?
Oh, no, certainly not. I just mean like, I'm sort of philosophically looking at, is privacy going to be enforced by something or someone, or is it just going to kind of, be a meme?
I think Kenny is probably gets to see a little closer up the attitude in Europe, right, with GDPR. Privacy is a big deal, the right to be forgotten. In the US and in North America, not as much, but I don't really know why. I do think eventually that will come about. I think we'll catch up to Europe over here. They can't not, right?
It could be the feature, not the bug, right? Like if you squint your eyes, you might it's just being sucked up by the capitalist machine, right? Like it's sort of a feature.
The ability to leak people's privacy, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, scary. I will say that Commissioner Peirce, when I was talking to her, she said, I really fear that blockchain, you guys in blockchain are going to build back doors into everything. So that can be misused and abused by governments. And I would urge you to stay true to your ideals of decentralization and not having some way that the government can get in and slurp up all that data. And I think that kind of speaks to, she did tell me that in the SEC, that's what they want. In the regulators' minds, that would be the ideal. They could have access to everything. But I don't think that even regulators think that that extends to everybody, right? Everybody should not know that.
I mean, even I'm in New Zealand, and there was just a case published that their Inland Revenue Department just basically sold, which is their Social Security, they just sold all their data to some marketing firms, like completely out from everybody in the
Wow.
country.
Wow.
So like that's why I'm a little cynical about it. I'm like, maybe this is just part of the bargain that everyone makes, that you know, and that it's just a feature, not a bug. So obviously, like I want you know, the triple entry accounting ledger of the future. I thought it's 2024. I thought we'd have jetpacks. like you know, I'm just wondering where my jetpack is.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I think here
I
in
don't know.
Europe, it's pretty interesting. Like you mentioned, Lisa, the GDPR. We get every website you go on, you have to accept cookies, and you should have a breakdown of which cookies you're willing to accept. And it's a horrible user experience, and nobody likes it. And most people just click accept and go on. But at least there's some visibility. In the US, you don't get that. And when you're confronted with it 10, 20 times a day, you start to realize how much data is actually being built up on you. But that is one of the good things about blockchain that I speak about quite a lot, is the software is open source. So if people were building in backdoors, anyone in the public could go check it. And so when people talk about building stuff like central bank digital currencies or whatever it may be, I don't think you can do that without using open source software, because nobody's going to trust it. Unless you can prove to me that there's no backdoor, why would I ever trust you? No matter who you are,
That's what
because
audits are for.
yeah,
You know, it's funny. I just spoke to the auditors from Oak Security last night, and they said a funny thing to me in passing. He said it's hard to prove the negative. So I agree with you, Kenny. On the other hand, it's very hard to prove the negative here, that there isn't a backdoor. Yes, we can open source it and we can have everyone look at it, but it's like, you know, there's a part of me that the biologist in me is like, maybe the predator parasite is just a part of our natural ecosystem, and it's just always going to be there. And no matter what we do, we just can never get like a secure thing.
But I think that's the whole push and pull, right, of evolution and progress. Is everything we do has a good side, and then it has a negative side, and then we have to try to mitigate the consequences of what we did. You know, like industrial revolution, then pollution, and consumerism. Well, capitalism, consumerism, and waste. The drive to make breakable things, like, and then awareness is always the thing that brings it around to address the consequences. So I mean, it's a good question, but we've been through these cycles before where terrible things were done, and I think this is another one. Sharing people's data is a terrible thing, and at first it passes, but then as people start to get aware, there are activists who step in. There's public awareness that happens, and things change. But never, I would agree with you, there's always going to be an element of that, right? On the fringes. You can't eradicate it.
In your mood boards and imagination at Secret, like and Millicent, how do you guys see people using this in the future? Like, what's your ideal scenario? Are all institutions using TEEs and and sharing info when they need it, and then keeping out of everything else? Like, what do you see is the Valhalla here?
I'll jump on that because there are 4 different privacy technologies on chain. So I don't think TE is the ultimate end all be all. It's the most powerful and practical today. But FHE, it's never going to do everything. Like Kenny was saying, there's times when you just need to know, is this person over 21 or not? TEs are way overkill for that, right? A ZK proof is all you need to know is yes or no. And then MPC is for other multi-party compute is for other cases where you just need a bunch of people to all agree on something. And then there's TEs, which are very powerful and practical, but they're hardware dependent, so they're not truly decentralized. And then you have the ultimate, which is FHE, fully homomorphic encryption, which is all math and very secure, but not practical for today's world yet. And then eventually you've got to have quantum resistance. So there's no one answer to that question. So my mood board for the future is that everyone is thinking about how they're going to protect their customers' data, their IP, their sensitive data on chain, and everyone's going to be on chain. That's my vision of the future.
I'll just add to that. Everyone's going to be on chain and not know it. That would be my vision.
Exactly. Exactly.
Should just be abstracted.
Totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah, just some recent news. The California DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, it just is issuing all of its titles on an Avalanche Layer 1. There's no tokens. There's no meme coins. There's nothing. Which is like such a big, Kafka-esque machine that suddenly adopted blockchain. That's such a great win for everyone. It has nothing to do with the insanity of the memes.
That is crazy. That's amazing.
There is some hope. In terms of I'll do some public BD here. So Secret, for people who don't know, is a Cosmos Layer 1, and Millicent is also connected to IBC over at base, the other, unless you've changed your stack recently, Kenny, right?
No, so we did a lot of work with the Cosmos stack in the past 18 months, and built some really cool prototypes and proof of concept. David, who's one of my co-founders, used to be a VP at Tendermint, the creators of the Cosmos SDK. So he's an IBC maxi. I'm pretty far down that path as well. Currently, we're not connected to IBC, but we hope to be in the near future. It's coming. There are a couple of different teams bringing it over to the Ethereum ecosystem. We found that the EVM might not be the most, let's say, technically advanced VM, but much like, I guess, I'm going to date myself with the VHS and Betamax analogy, network effects count for a lot. And we had a lot of institutions that we were wanting to work with push back against the Cosmos stack and WASM because it's not so standardized. And so I think it's cool what you're doing at Landslide, bringing IBC to an ecosystem that's multi-VM, heavily EVM at the moment. So, institutions are comfortable with that, but these institutions move slowly. That's their nature. Big machines take a long time to get in motion, and once they're in motion, it's hard to move them. And currently, we're seeing a lot of stuff done in private using Hyperledger Besu. We're seeing the stuff that's go live on Ethereum mainnet, largely because of network effects, standardization. Ethereum's been around for 10 years.
But what about mandate? Like, does mandate have something to do with it? Like, and counterparty risk?
In terms of choosing the stack, I think there's some elements of that, of who's overseeing the software development in the future, how much do we trust the organization, etc. So, Hyperledger, all open source, but has a very robust community, has a solid foundation behind it, and backed by the Linux Foundation. And so they're comfortable with that. And the Ethereum Foundation is again a pretty big machine. Everything's done very publicly, very slowly and methodically, which on crypto Twitter gets complained about a lot. But if you're looking for institutional adoption, people don't want a move fast and break things mindset. They want to make sure that things are going to be done right. And I mean, like we saw with the merge, that was a pretty incredible piece of work. Took years to plan, was flawlessly executed. If
Yep.
you've got
That was pretty
billions of
good, yeah.
dollars of assets on the chain, you want to see that kind of execution.
Mhm. Talking about, network effects, yes, Secret is built on Cosmos SDK, but we have Secret Path built to EVM that's been live for 9 months or so. And actually, next week or the week after, in 2 weeks, we're going to be announcing our Solana path. So that's coming, little alpha for you there, because there's so many developers on Ethereum and so many developers on Solana. It just makes sense. We don't need to stay in our own little tiny ecosystem and make everybody come to Cosmos. What we need to do is build tools that everybody can use no matter what chain they're building on.
Which is kind of the ethos of Cosmos, right? It's a multi-chain environment,
kind
and
of
everyone
is.
connects to everyone. So
Yeah,
I think
you'd think we'd be popular in Cosmos.
So
no.
how do we build IBC relayers for institutions? Honest question.
Okay, IBC relayers are pretty terrible right now. It's a problem that I am working on actually to get more redundancy, and there's just some, I don't know why they're so terrible, but I will figure it out. I will find out what the problem is.
I can tell you number
unearth
one
it
is they're not paid. That's number one.
Yeah, exactly. If we can inject some cash into it, it'll help for sure.
That's what our plan is. So our plan is to pay all of our relayers in tokens
Nice.
to relay.
Right.
So I was just wondering, like, do we have to? Does it have to be purple? Does it have to be red? Like, what? How do we build this relayer? So, like, our alpha is we're releasing our Avalanche Lite client for IBC basically next week, and it's been about 2 years of work. It just thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 2 years of work with Halborn audit. Now we're done. The caveat is, just because it's audited doesn't mean it's safe, and we have to constantly have monitoring solutions set up, which we're in the process of doing. But we don't have and we're releasing the documentation, and so our docs were like, how do we issue, like, what are the bells and whistles we need to have to Millicent clients be like, okay, like, what are they talking about? Let's see the docs on this. Like, how do we run our own? I don't want counterparty risk from some crackheads on another end of the TCP/IP protocol. Like, what do we have to do to make ourselves button ourselves up here?
Unfortunately, I don't think that there's a concise answer that I can give to you on that.
Great.
A lot of the calls and talks that we have are basically every major institution has some people who are very gung-ho and want to go for it, and they're on the innovation team or the digital assets team or what have you. But behind them are the people with a giant stick on the risk and compliance team.
Yeah, that's right.
Not only do they not necessarily understand the tech or the benefits, but their job is literally to say no to things.
Yep.
And so if you can't prove that it's safe, you can't do it. And the only way that you can prove that it's safe is if it's been done before.
Yeah.
And
that's the thesis of this entire talk today.
Yeah.
That right there, that was it. Say it again. That was great. Let's hear it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is you can only do it if it's safe, and you can only prove that it's safe because it's been done before. And I mean, even like you say, that doesn't necessarily prove that it's safe in the future. It proves that it was safe in the past. And the institutions are comfortable with the risks that they know and understand, and they're not necessarily comfortable with the risks that they don't fully understand. And so
I think that's true, but also let's look at cloud services, right? Because banks were very uncomfortable with adopting cloud services. And did they solve all the problems before they adopted them? No, they just were like, oh, well, everyone's doing it. It must be okay. And now most banks are on cloud services, service providers. They don't have their own on-prem installations and managing their own infrastructure. But that happened, right? I mean, how did that
Fair.
happen? How can we make that happen?
Fair
Well,
point.
I think Microsoft was a big part of that. Is that a big brand that they thought they could trust came out with
And they
Azure.
still go down.
Oh,
Yeah.
like Visa, you mean? Kind of like Visa?
Just
Just to bring it round.
Yeah.
But with CrowdStrike, like something simple can take down everything, even in Web 2.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
You're never safe, but I guess it's managed risk.
Well, I want to give you guys an opportunity to give shout outs and a shill fest. What would you like our viewers to do, and how would you like to leave them?
I'll say follow us on Twitter. We're at Millicent Labs, and we're building at Millicent1 _ because annoyingly Millicent1 was already taken by someone with no followers. So if you want to message Elon Musk and tell him to give us the good handle, that would be great. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. We're announcing some big things before the end of the month, and there will be more and more ways to get involved. So yeah. Also,
cool.
Like, just get involved and try and push people towards more public and open source things in all aspects of life. I think that the more people are speaking about it, the more that the institutions will listen. They're starting to listen, but we've got a way to go.
Thank you.
I will say that we are going to DevCon. So we're running DCC Day, Decentralized Confidential Computing Day. And we have done this 4 times already. Our next one is in DevCon, at DevCon in Bangkok. So if you're going to be at DevCon, please do come and join us. Register for DCC Day, number 5. It's going to be the biggest yet. We're going to have some pretty cool speakers as well. We're getting bigger. And influencers and people that you would never get really close to. And it's in kind of a small environment. So great opportunity. Sorry about the background noise. And then the other thing is, if you are a builder, we have just launched our builder program. Our builder program's completely free. What we do is we give you training, education on how to code in blockchain if you've never done that, how to do secret coding. And then we also offer support, advice for your strategy for your project. Eventually, you can apply for a grant. Oh, and we have partners, so we get a lot of credits and goodies for our builder, the people in our builder program. And then eventually grants from Secret Labs, and then eventually we will introduce you to VCs. In fact, I think we're going to have our first ever pitch contest in DevCon. So if you're a builder and you want to build on Secret, now's the time to start thinking about it and get your pitch together. We'll have a pitch thing open soon. Our website is SCRT.network. You can follow us on Twitter, Secret Network, and yeah, come and build with us. We'll help you every step of the way.
Great, that's great. I'll give a final shout out, which is our SDK is live, and we're gonna start a hackathon for bad ideas called a crackathon, where good ideas go to die, and we're only going to incentivize as long as the idea is internally consistent. It doesn't matter how horrible it is. So hopefully we can build on both Secret and Millicent to prove just how horrible Web3 could be.
I'm looking forward to that
awesome.
one.
In a totally compliant way.
Amazing. I love that.
Great. All right, guys.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks so much for your time.
You can.
Yeah, likewise. Nice to see you.
Thank you, guys.